What's up guys, Shane here, Fugatech 3D Printing, and today we're going to check out 3DMars PLA. Welcome back. So Mars, the 3DMars company, hit me up and asked me if I would review their PLA. I said of course. I'd seen a few other people use it. They have a very unique spool design, so you can really tell when you see it what the filament is, which I find interesting. And I said, yeah, I would try it out. So their box here is pretty, non-eventful. It's just this brown with a bunch of black text on it, 3D print filament, made in China. Here it has their Instagram, email, Twitter, and Facebook, all their URLs for that. And here at the bottom, it says 3DMars White. And they give us diameter, net weight. Now that's the other thing. This is 1.2 kilograms of filament, not 1 kilogram of filament. So that's kind of also their claim to fame. You get longer prints because you have more filament on the spool than you would with someone else's filament. The box is a little bit thicker than a normal 1 kilogram spool, so I'm assuming it's going to be also a little bit thicker. Let's see, also the tolerance here, the extrude temperature 195 to 220, and then it has it again in some other language, and then maybe German? I don't know, and looks like Chinese. So let's dig into this. Where's my pen knife? Yeah. Saran wrap on there. I also find interesting that the window right here, they didn't actually punch out. For most companies do that, so like if you have this like sitting on your shelf, you can see, oh, there's my white, there's this, there's that. Again, an interesting little thing there. Box blew my mind right there. Here we go. Okay, so it's an origami box, very cool. Anyways, yeah, so this is what I was talking about, this spool, how it has like these swooshes, I'm going to call them, just the way it's designed. When you see this on someone's printer, this is the only filament I've seen that uses this type of spool. I very well could be wrong, so don't quote me on it, but as far as I'm aware, they're the only ones that use the spool design, so it is very distinct. It does seem to be a little bit thicker, and the filament comes almost up to the very top, which most other spools, there's at least like, a half an inch between where the filament ends and where the end of the spool is. So that's interesting. On the filament here, it just says 3DMars on there. And then back here, it gives you the extruder temp again, tells you it's White PLA. There's a huge desiccant pack in the middle there, nice and tight. Let's see how tight the wind is on it now. Down there, nothing on there. The wind is good. It's pretty tight. It's very dusty though. It's just in one spot. You can't see it at all because I can't zoom in that much, but there's just a bunch of black dust on it right there. It looks to be okay. It is interesting also how they have the filament end just kind of taped right here. Normally, especially on new spools, they loop it through, these holders on the side of the spool. They normally do that. But anyways, it's clipped together and it's glued, and there's no real looseness in the spool, like it doesn't jiggle at all. I like to check that sometimes. And it doesn't have much of an odor, which again is always good. Some people are very sensitive and odors bother them. I don't really care. But anyways, yeah, so this should be fun. Maybe we can print something big with this. I'll have to see. I've got 2 large format printers now, so let's roll some time lapses and see how this stuff turns out. All right, so this time lapse came out okay. I'm not really quite happy with the angle that I have on the CR10, but that's a whole nother story and I'll take care of that later. But these are the prints I have and I used, as you can see, almost the entire roll. This was full almost to the brim here. And I've got, you know, maybe 50 meters left, if that. I'd say highly less than that, maybe 20 meters left on here. So I used pretty much all of it. Aztec Chief here, this guy took about 28 to 32 hours. I forget exactly what it was. The Aria the Dragon here, she took 42 hours. So she was quite a bit longer. And the prints came out great, I'd say, or really good, aside from issues I had with the printer itself. So yeah, I mean, so beside the little issues I had with me still dialing that printer in and getting everything absolutely perfect, but the printer settings aside, everything turned out pretty good. But let's take a closer look, and that way you can decide. All right, so obviously I had to print out my maker coin, and I printed this twice because I'm using two different profiles on the CR10 just to kind of, you know, finish dialing it in and make sure everything is the way it should be. So let's look at this one first, and this was a scratch profile that I created myself because I didn't like the default one the Simplify 3D has. As you can see, there's a bit of stringing here, so my retraction settings were off, and I think I might have been a little bit too hot. This was printed at 210 degrees centigrade. Looking here at the bottom, there is a little bit of the separation in my layers. I'm still working on getting my first layers exactly right. But looking at how the filament performed, I'd say it came out really well. You know, when it went over the supports, none of the supports really stuck to it. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. This one was printed with 0 support. So there's a little bit of the drooping on these corners here because there was no support. And that is just kind of inevitable without the support on this model. But I'd say aside from that, it turned out really nice. The walls were really, really nice. A few little retraction, again, little retraction blobs here and there. That's all on my printer. And the top facing here, I think it just looks really nice. You know, the strings come off real easy, but that's okay. Let's look at the other one here. So this one, again, a little bit of the retraction settings need to be, you know, fixed. This is actually Uncle Jesse's profile. He's another YouTuber, and he posted his up on, was it Extruding Knowledge, which is the MakerBox website. And this one came out a little bit better, I think, on the top layers. These side walls were better. The only issue I really had with this is that for some reason the support wouldn't come off. And I've honestly never had this issue with Simplify 3D. But I actually had one heck of a time trying to get this off using his profile. With mine, well, again, this one I didn't actually put support on. I wish I had another one I did yet, but I did not get any of this. I mean, it came off obviously, but you can still see some of the dense layers there, here, all these parts. Even on here, there's a little bit that just wouldn't quite come off. So I wasn't happy with that. And again, here, a little bit of separation in lines. Still need to tweak my first layer. And retraction, these little blobs, but you can just take a putty knife and just right across and they all pop off and you never even knew they were there. And they're really only on the inside of the letters, so that's okay. But otherwise, this would not bad a print at all. All right, so next we've got a bunch of chess pieces, and these actually didn't turn out the way I wanted to because I was using my profile, and again, my retraction settings are off by just a little bit. Like, it's not stringing, but I am getting these pimples on the print, as you can see here, and it wasn't terribly smooth in here, so that's a printer problem. But up here, where there were no problems, man, is this smooth. I mean, these tops on here were just absolutely butter smooth. So aside from like all the zits, let me see, focus here a bit. So aside from the zits right there, this other side, I mean, it is just gorgeous right there. And again, you can see here the zits on the inside. So again, the retraction settings that I need to work on. But other than that, man, is this smooth. Like, you can barely even feel lines on this. I am impressed with both the filament and the printer up here. These darn retraction settings. But I printed all of these pieces together like so. So they were all on the build plate, pretty much like that. They weren't exactly this close because I'm just trying to fit in the frame. Well, actually, you're upside down. That was how it was printed, about. So you can see, but there was the retraction settings between them, no stringing, but those little dimps are killing me. All right, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you will see this to be Scorpion's mask. This came out fantastically. I had a little bit of the zits on the inside, but I took my putty knife and they came right off. And I think I got almost all of them. There's a few just inside of here. You can see the little zits right there. Those need to come off, but man, other than that, this turned out beautifully. It feels so smooth, and it just looks great. There was no bed adhesion problems, no warping whatsoever from the filament. So I call this a huge success, and if I could actually paint, I'd probably paint it. But I'll probably end up just leaving it like this, like the Sub-Zero mask. But anyways, awesome print. Came out great. All right, so here we have Aria the Dragon. We're just gonna do the close-up here real quick, and I'll show her on the big screen. But she came out good. I'll show you the parts that didn't, which I've had on other printers, which was the nail here. There's a little loop there. Underneath bits of the tail here. That does happen with other printers as well. Underneath the chest right here. And then underneath the armpits down in there as well, you can see a little bit of the stringing. That's a cooling issue. That's not filament at all, but the down here at the butt wasn't too bad. But the issue that was the printer is this Z-banding that happened when we got to the top of the print. See, there you can see it right there now. So everything was fine up until about this line, which something happened there, and then it just started wobbling, wobbling, wobbling all the way up to the top. And it also happened here in her face. You can see it got up to the dark line, and then it started wobbling, wobbling, wobbling. So, I mean, aside from the printer wobbling, which I'm a little mad that it's doing that, but I think that's a side effect of one lead screw, otherwise came out great. Her back here, super smooth, super duper smooth. No real retraction issues though on this print, which was really nice to see. No stringing really on this print either. It had very little cleanup. I think maybe have like 4 or 5 zits on one of the wings, but otherwise it came out great. All right, and I'm going to show this on the big screen, but I wanted to show you the Aztec Chief here. I can't really zoom out enough on this guy, but there is a little bit of drooping here, and then there is some under this shelf, which is almost 90 degrees out. A little bit there, little retraction blips here, which wasn't too bad. My problem was, with Simplify 3D, what the hell happened here? Well, what happened here is I changed the infill from 2% to 10%, because some of these start printing over mid-air and they need support underneath of them, so I needed higher level support. So I printed everything up to here, which was I think 250 millimeters with 2% infill, and then I switched to 10%. Well, something here for a good 5-6 layers just screwed up. And he's got this band going across his forehead now, which I am not too pleased about. Back here is really not that noticeable, because that was like the crown of his head where it started. Right here is where it starts to curve. But the front, you can really tell, and I'm not happy about that. And I purely think that was just me screwing up Simplify 3D settings. So yeah, taking a closer look here at the Aria Dragon, like I said, she came out great. It was a 42-hour print. It was a super long time. Bottom layer was actually really good on this one. Not the best I've ever had, but I was very happy with it. Everything else, I mean, it really came out nicely. And I think with changing up the stock cooler that's on the CR10, I really could shape up some of these, because I've done a full-size Aria again. So this was, I'm sorry, this was actually full-size build plate, which I honestly don't remember the percentage now. But in Simplify 3D, you can do scale to max size, whatever the printer is, it will maximize it, and you just start printing. And I printed this also on the FT5 a long time ago with the toner plastics. And I had a little bit of the same issues, not quite as bad though, because the cooling I have in the FT5 is better than the stock CR10. So take that for what you will, but I think it performed really, really nicely. There are no under extrusion parts, there's no over extrusion parts. So the filament was very, very consistent with all throughout this. And as you've seen some of the other prints, like a maker box maybe, I did have inconsistent prints with just a very short 16-meter piece. I mean, this took probably this was over 100 meters, and it was consistent the whole time. You can't argue against that. And speaking of consistency, the infill in this looked like a giant solid honeycomb. Like there was zero under extrusion on the infill, and it was 2% infill. So each of the honeycombs were about 1 inch in diameter to go across this sucker. And this is a big print. I mean, this guy was big. This was this one was 36 hours. Dragon was 42 hours. So long print. But man, it came out nice. I really have to say, it was nice. Aside from, again, my screw up here in Simplify 3D, which I really don't know what happened there. That's boggling my mind. It turned out absolutely great, and the kind of strings down here easily are cleaned up, and again, with different cooling on the stock FT5, those won't even be a problem. But super consistent filament. I am very impressed for how cheap this stuff is. There you have it, guys. That's 3DMars White PLA. I think this stuff was amazing, not gonna lie. This could be a daily driver if you guys need some cheap filament. If you want to get some of it, there's a link down below for Amazon. You can go ahead and pick some up. Again, totally blown away by the quality of this. I wasn't sure what to expect. The other nice thing about this is for the price, gotta remember, this is a 1.2 kilogram roll of filament, not a 1 kilogram of filament. Might not be a big deal, but an extra 200 grams could go the extra way. Now granted, if you do need humongous prints with super large, super huge prints, you would want to use a 3 kilogram spool. But for the same prices of 1 kilogram for some PLAs, you can get 1.2 kilograms for the same price or cheaper. So go ahead, check this stuff out. I'm going to see how much it is on Amazon right now. So the time is recording, this was $18.99. I think it's a pretty good deal for that price. This kind of, I would put this on par with like Hatchbox. Inland you can get a little bit cheaper if you have Amazon, or if you have, it's even better if you have a Micro Center nearby. But I would put this in the same league as those guys. It's a good price. Again, 1.2 kilograms, can't go wrong with that. Alright guys, that concludes my review of the 3DMars White PLA. If you guys liked the video, give it a big like. If you didn't, thumbs down. Let me know down in the comments what I can do better. If you want to support me financially, right down below me is going to be a link to Patreon. Donate me $1 more. I greatly appreciate current Patreons. You guys are awesome. You really help make the channel go further. If you guys want to support me without spending your money, well, you are, but not like just giving it directly to me, there's affiliate links down below. So do your daily shopping with some of those. A little slice of that comes back to me and helps the channel grow. I thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, happy printing.